The Revelation File Report is a production of the Waterwood Ministries in Houston. We are an educational and instructional ministry, and we share information that we believe is pertinent to end-time Bible prophecy. So we do use copyrighted material from YouTube and other sources to share this information with you, our viewers. We do take free will offerings, but this is not done for the sake of profit. This is for education and information to our viewers who believe in end-time Bible prophecy. Hello everyone, I'm Wally Wood. We welcome you to this edition of the Revelation File Report. As you veteran viewers know, we focus on events, trends, and issues having to do with the end-time prophetic days that we're living in. And that's what the Revelation File Report is all about. And today is no exception. We're going to take you into some late-breaking news items that I think you'll find to be of great interest. Building of the third temple, the timing of that. Also having to do with the red heifer sacrifice that's coming up soon in Jerusalem, and the resumption of daily animal sacrifices and what that means. Israel is emerging as an exporter of energy now for the first time of its history, and we have covered this a number of times in this program, and so we're going to give you an update on that. And the drying up of the Euphrates River and the threat it poses to that particular region of the earth, and what that means prophetically. So stay tuned. I think you're going to find some very interesting information that you can share with others. First, red heifer sacrifice could take place in 1 year in Jerusalem. And that's the latest news on this because of the cattle that have come to Israel, 5 of which from Texas, and they are soon to be inspected to see how viable they are to become the qualified red heifer for sacrifice. According to CBN News, Prophetic Anticipation Builds, unblemished red heifers for temple ceremony soon come of age. From Mount of Olives in Jerusalem. Last September, 5 red heifers arrived in Israel amid great fanfare because some Jews and Gentiles believe red heifers are a key element leading to the building of the third Jewish temple. The heifers are now in a secure, undisclosed location in Israel. Plans include moving them sometime soon to a visitor center in Shiloh, where the tabernacle of the Lord once stood nearly 400 years ago. The book of Numbers explains that ashes of the red heifer are used to purify the priests for their service in the temple. Quoting Numbers 19, verses 1 through 5, "Now the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, This is the ordinance of the law which the Lord has commanded, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, that they bring you a red heifer without blemish, in which there is no defect, and on which a yoke has never come." These red heifers are now between 1.5 to 2 years of age. To replicate the ceremony mentioned in the Bible, they need to be at least 3 years old. And within that time span, they cannot have a blemish or anything that would disqualify them for the ceremony, even one white or black hair. That's how finely they are examined. Continuing, according to those working on the project, the ceremony of the red heifer needs to be performed on the Mount of Olives and in a place that would have looked directly into where the temple stood. The land directly east of the Temple Mount, purchased 12 years ago, meets both of those standards. Rabbi Yitzhak Mamo owns that land on the Mount of Olives. As he told CBN News, quoting, "So we have the priest, we have the red heifer, we have the land. We have everything ready. We just need to wait another 1.5 years." End of quote. Byron Stinson from Bonai, Israel, helped find the red heifers in the United States, quoting, "So we believe that it's very likely that the ceremony would happen somewhere in the area of Passover 2024, being April 22nd of that year, out to the possibility of Shavuot or Pentecost 2024, being June the 13th. Somewhere in that timeline, the cows would be old enough and it would be the proper timeline for that ceremony." End of quote. Now, for the sake of our viewers, let me bring you up to date on this. The Bible tells us that when the Antichrist comes to power, midway through this 7-year period of time known as the tribulation period, midway through he's going to cause the daily sacrifice to cease. And that's told to us in Daniel. Now, if that be true, that means that the daily sacrifice has to begin at some point. And we will have reached 3.5 years in, then the daily sacrifice will be brought to an end by the Antichrist. So that's how critical this particular element is to the course of end-time Bible prophecy. And it's long been held within Jewish tradition that the 10th red heifer will be at the time of Messiah's arrival, the Messianic era. The 10th red heifer since Moses. And surely, when the tabernacle was destroyed in 70 AD by the Romans, that brought an end to the daily sacrifice and the lost urn that contains the ashes of the 9th red heifer. Now, according to Jewish legislation here in recent years, they don't need that 9th urn to continue the process. So we're sitting at a very critical point in the course of world history. As we move toward that era, they will resume the sacrifice of daily sacrifice of the red heifer and its ashes. So stay tuned to the news on this. More is coming. Moving into some other areas, Israel, an emerging exporter of energy. Israel is becoming an oil producer, oil and gas. And here are some of the headlines that announce this. Israel Today, Eureka. Israel has as much oil as Saudi Arabia, the Knesset was told. That's unimaginative. That's got a lot of people shocked. The media line, Israel as potential gas supplier for Europe as it boosts production. On October 27th of 2022, this signing of an agreement between Lebanon and Israel concerning oil and gas production.
A historic deal signed on Thursday, a maritime border agreement between Israel and Lebanon that will allow for lucrative offshore gas extraction by both. The deal was rubber-stamped by the Israeli government, a landmark moment, according to Prime Minister Yair Lapid.
This is a political achievement. It is not every day that an enemy state recognizes the state of Israel in a written agreement in front of the entire international community. It is not every day that the United States and France stand behind us and provide security and economic guarantees for the agreement.
A statement which was rejected by Lebanese President Michel Aoun.
Demarcating the southern maritime border is technical work that has no political implications or effects, contradicting Lebanon's foreign policy.
The deal was made possible following lengthy mediations by the US, with the Lebanese president delivering the signed version to American mediators, who cited the importance of the deal for Lebanon.
I think what's important now that we've reached this milestone is not just this milestone, but what happens from here. And I truly believe and hope that this can be an economic turning point in Lebanon for a new era of investment and continued support to lift up the economy.
The production of natural gas is officially underway on an offshore gas field in Karish, which Israel ultimately have full rights over. But Lebanon has full rights to explore and operate the reservoir in Qana further north, part of which is in Israeli territory, of which Israel will receive some revenue. Beirut hopes that this gas field will enable it to emerge from the economic crisis currently plaguing the country, while Israel is looking to supply its domestic market as well as ramp up its exports.
Israel wants to increase its gas exports to Italy and Europe. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made the announcement during his visit to Rome on Friday. where he met with his counterpart Giorgia Meloni. He said the move could also raise the possibility of creating a liquefied natural gas terminal in Cyprus.
Our cooperation in gas, Italy, you said, wants to be a hub for the supply of energy for Europe and for many other things. Well, we think that exactly that, and we have gas reserves that we are now exporting, and we'd like to expedite more gas exports to Europe through Italy.
Netanyahu met with Italy's business minister Adolfo Urso before meeting the Italian premier. Urso says Italy is working hard to become a European gas hub and reduce its dependency on Russian supplies since its full-scale invasion of Ukraine began.
This is particularly exciting for me because as far back as the 1980s, I was the national spokesman for the Asher oil drilling project known at that time, and I broadcast across the country by way of the Christian News Network that started on radio in those early 80s, daily progress of the first major oil drilling or exploration site in Israel at the time. You can go back to our program, number 139, in this archive of programs of ours, RFN Update, Oil in Israel 2020. And you can go to our address on YouTube to view that. And I give you the entire biblical, historical, prophetic background to the promise that God gave as far back as Genesis and Deuteronomy that Israel would begin one day in the last days to produce oil. In Deuteronomy 33, verses 24 through 25, and of Asher, he said, let Asher be blessed with children, and let him dip his foot in oil. Thy shoes shall be iron and brass. In the lower right corner of this photo, you see the territory of Asher in the form of a leg with its foot down. The toe is at Caesarea, the heel is at Haifa, and its shoes should be will be iron and brass, suggesting above ground oil pipelines. Genesis 49, blessings of the deep that lieth under shall be upon Israel. Deuteronomy 32, verses 9 and 13, he will suck honey out of the rock and oil out of the flinty rock. So again, these are promises for Israel in the last days of becoming an oil-producing country. And according to some sources, it's on the cusp of becoming the world's third largest producer of oil and gas to other nations. In other news, the mighty Euphrates is drying up. This too is historic and prophetic. According to some news sources like Al Jazeera, disaster looms in Syria as the Euphrates dries up. Smithsonian Magazine, what does the future of the Euphrates spell for the Middle East? In the wake of the war against ISIS in Iraq, an ominous journey along the once mighty river finds a new crisis lurking in the shallows. And you can go to this address and read the rest of that story there. From Israel 365 News, Euphrates River drying up, fulfilling Jeremiah's prophecy. The region once known as the Fertile Crescent is on the verge of a food crisis as the main sources of water disappear. Officials struggle to cope as a prophetic scenario appears to materialize. Iraqi officials are reporting that for 3 consecutive years, the rainy season has begun later and ended sooner than the historic norm. This has been coupled with less water flowing through its 2 main rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. The region has also been plagued by ongoing conflict. You can read more about this at Israel365news.com. Quoting a professor in the area, what was once known as the Fertile Crescent started to die about 35 years ago. And here you have a photo of the Euphrates Tigris Basin in 2006 and then in 2009, taken by NASA. Quoting, according to a recent satellite study, the Tigris-Euphrates Basin has a groundwater depletion rate higher than any other place on the planet, except India. Due to the high rate of global warming in the world, it is believed that an environmental disaster is likely to be encountered as the Euphrates is drying up. End of quote. Higher than any other place on the planet except India. The river is drying up. Now, why is this important? Because we're told in prophecy that it would. Isaiah 11, verse 15, God judges that region. The Lord will dry up the gulf of the Egyptian sea. With a scorching wind, he will sweep his hand over the Euphrates River. He will break it up into 7 streams so that anyone can cross over in sandals. And here you have a picture of people walking across the dry riverbed in sandals. Isaiah 19:5, the waters of the river will dry up, and the riverbed will be parched and dry. Revelation 16:12, the 6th angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates. Its water was dried up to prepare the way for the kings from the east. Prepare the way for the kings from the east. And these are now prophecies that are coming to pass. What does it mean, preparing the way for the kings from the east? Revelation 16:12, again, preparing the way for the kings from the east. Revelation 9, verses 13 through 21 in the New American Standard Bible. Then the 6th angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar, which is before God, saying to the 6th angel who had the trumpet, release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. The number of the armies of the horsemen was 200 million. I heard the number of them, 200 million. In this region, North Korea, India, Communist China, and Japan, all told, can put together such an army of great strength and number. Who are these kings from the east? It's a tough question to lock down. East of Jerusalem is Eastern Europe and all of Asia. Together, they're known as Eurasia. The Eurasia region comprises 92 sovereign countries, of which 44 are European and 44 are Asian. Thus, the continental area accounts for close to half of the world's sovereign countries. As of 2019, the region has an estimated population of 5.4 billion, about 71% of the total world's population. The region's population includes 746 million people in Europe and 4.6 billion people in Asia. 7 of the world's 10 most populated countries are within the Eurasia area, with China and India accounting for about 52% of the region's population. Of particular note and interest is mainland Communist China. There's a sizable contingency of Bible and history scholars who agree that China poses the greatest threat and potential to fulfill the aspects of a 200 million man army like no other nation on earth. Teamed with other growing powerhouses in the region like India and Japan, the possibilities loom even greater. In Asia alone, there are 48 nations. Among them, China has a 1.5 billion population, India a 1.3 billion, Japan 126.5 million, and North Korea a total of 25 million. And of all this, China claims to have been able to put together a 200 million man militia, as recorded in the May 21st, 1965 Time magazine. And they go on to say that the mainland press reported shrilly that units on the Yunnan border were engaged in intensive bayonet and machine gun drill. Men and women in blue boiler suits marched briskly through Peking streets with rifles slung. And you can read this at this address. And I was 15 years old when I first heard this or read this in Time magazine. And I made note of the fact that this was the very first time that China ever admitted to having a 200 million man capacity for militia army. And so this has its roots deep in history, and we're moving rapidly in that direction. A 200 million man war. There's only one book in the world that has a 100% accurate record in predicting world events before they occur. Prophecy demands an answer, and the Bible has never been wrong, ever. There are 109 prophecies in the Old Testament of Jesus' first coming. There are 329 prophecies in the entire Bible of his second coming. And as we approach in the final days of this generation, these things are happening before our eyes. Billy Graham said world events are moving very rapidly now. I pick up the Bible in one hand and I pick up the newspaper in the other, and I read almost the same words in the newspaper as I read in the Bible. Those predictions are coming to pass so rapidly. It's wonderful to know that the Bible is still true, as being fulfilled every day round about us. End of quote. And I was 13 when he made that comment on TV. Our ordination, why I do what I do, Sir Isaac Newton. About the times of the end, a body of men will be raised up who will turn their attention to the prophecies and insist upon their literal interpretation in the midst of much clamor and opposition, to which I can say a hearty amen to that. These are the times in which we're living. John 14:9, and now I've told you before it comes, that when it does come to pass, you may believe. Prophecy demands an answer, and history provides the proof. And that's what the Revelation File is all about, folks. We reach deep into current events of our times today to show Bible prophecy in fast fulfillment. And as I've said so many times before, Jesus said in Matthew 24, the generation that saw these things that were to be prophesied in the last days would not pass away until all had been fulfilled, which included his return. And before our very eyes, we're seeing Israel become a major oil producer and exporter like never before in all of its history, prophesied in ancient scriptures. We see the Euphrates drying up, an historic event. It's never happened before, that the people will be able to walk across its dry riverbed in their sandals. It's happening now. We see Asia growing in power and might and influence like never before, able to pull together as many as 200 million man army, fulfilling end-time Bible prophecy. So take these reports, if you are a believer, show them to your friends, your neighbors, especially non-believers, because this is the time when scoffing and naysaying have nothing to stand on. People say, yeah, well, the proof is in the pudding. I'll believe it when I see it with my eyes. Well, it's happening before our eyes. What's your excuse now for not believing that Jesus Christ is coming back in the lifetime of the generation that sees these things, just as he promised? And if ancient prophecy has been fulfilled and future prophecy is in the process of being fulfilled, what are the chances that it's not going to happen? I'm Wally Wood. I challenge all viewers to believe what we're being shown here and to turn your attention to the God of the universe, to your Creator, who has said he's coming back. And according to this evidence, he's coming back sooner than you expect. I pray that the Holy Spirit will touch you and inspire you in these programs, and that you'll share them, and that it will inspire others to become believers. I thank you for watching. I'm Wally Wood, and we look forward to seeing you again at our next get-together.
You have been watching the Revelation File Report with Wally Wood, a Wally Wood Ministries production from Houston, Texas. You are able to support the ministry by donating at wallywoodministries.com and by mail at Wally Wood Ministries, P.O. Box 42005, Houston, Texas 77242. Wally is available to present full 2-hour forums in your city called the Revelation File News Forum. For more details, contact Andy Valadez at 713-560-3348 or by email at andy@andyvaladez.com. The Revelation File News Report is a weekly update of global trends in the news as it aligns with end-time Bible prophecy. Tune in again next time and be sure to like and share this channel.